Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's live. Thank you for joining us for our second live of the month of February as we continue talking about presidents and conservation. My name is Matthew Murray, and I'm an educator here at the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium located in Springfield, Missouri. If you're not familiar with us, we are a 350,000 square foot facility with over 100 or 1.5 miles of trails with over 800 species of animals from all over the world. We have exhibits from all over the world, and if you get the opportunity, we'd like you to come and visit us. If you can't come and visit us, we have you covered as well. So we have this really cool app that we've developed. It's called Agents of Discovery. And so to get this app, it's a virtual reality app. To get this app, you can go onto our website at www.wondersofwildlife.org/mission-conservation. Once you're on the website, you can scroll down a little bit and you'll see a box that says get the app. From there, you'll scroll down a little bit further and you'll see our triggers. You'll print the triggers off, and that's what you'll use within the app to download or to activate each individual challenge within the app. If you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see our schedule of missions and activities. This is where you'll find our activity guide for the month of February, which is a really cool craft that you can do at home. There's an indoor activity and an outdoor activity as well. Also, you'll find our Snapchat filter, which is our reward for completing the mission for the month of February. And without further ado, I'm standing in the Hall of Presidents here at Wonders of Wildlife. And you can see I have Bass Force One right here, which was a gift from Johnny Morris to George W. Bush as a thank you and a celebration for his works in water quality and wildlife habitat. So this is just some of the quirky things that have been given to presidents along the years. And we have our very own educator here, Justin Kirkpatrick, who's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the other quirky gifts and animals that have been given to presidents in the past. How are you doing today, Justin?
Hi there, Matt, and hi there, all of you out there. As you said, my name is Justin Kirkpatrick. I'm an educator and historian here at Wonders of Wildlife, and I'm coming to you live from our upper swamp area. And as you see right above my head, we have an alligator pit going on, and maybe that'll come in just a bit later on down the road. But I am here to talk about animals and presidents. So, did you guys know that we actually have two national animals here in the United States? National animals are animals that countries have that they feel represent them on the world stage. So our first national animal is actually the bald eagle. So bald eagles became our national animal in 1782. So a long time ago, right about the time our country got founded. So the people who created the seal of the United States wanted an animal that showed strength and authority, and they thought the bald eagle was the perfect animal to represent that. What happens when an animal becomes a national animal? In that country, people start to care about it a bit more. So, for example, in the 1940s, it actually became illegal to hunt bald eagles here in the United States. And in 1973, scientists found that a dangerous pesticide called DDT was finding its way into bald eagles' food source and weakening their eggshells. And what that means is that less baby bald eagles were being born at that time. The same year, Congress outlawed the use of that pesticide, and bald eagle numbers have actually risen. So when an animal becomes a national animal, conservation efforts for that animal go through the roof. They skyrocket, and they bring back some of our wonderful animals. Now, our second national animal is actually the American bison. So the American bison became our national mammal in 2016 when President Obama signed the National Bison Legacy Act. Now, bison have an incredible conservation story here in the United States. In the early 1800s, there were millions and millions of them all over our Great Plains, these really majestic mammals. And in the mid-1800s, hunters found out that they could easily kill them and harvest their hides for quite a bit of money back then. And so they started killing them in droves and overhunting was very bad for that population. They dipped all the way down to about 300 around 1900. That was all that was left. And luckily, thanks to presidents like Theodore Roosevelt protecting those animals with legislation, they have made a miraculous comeback, and we're nearing about 500,000 American bison. So all the way 32 million bison down to 500 or down to 300, and now back up to 500,000. So wonderful conservation story as well. Speaking of President Obama, did you guys know that he protected more land, water, and cultural sites than any other president? He did that through the expansion of our national parks and our national monument. A really cool tradition that he started was called the Every Kid in a Park initiative. And what that says is that every fourth grade student in America has a chance to go to a national park absolutely for free with their family. And because of the craziness of 2020, they actually have expanded that to fifth graders this year. So if you want to, anytime before August, and you're a fifth grader and your family can go to a national park absolutely for free thanks to this initiative. So we talked a little bit about animals. We talked a little bit about presidents. Now let's hear about some of the wacky animals some of those presidents have brought into the White House. So John Quincy Adams was our 6th president, all the way back in 1825. And in 1825, we were celebrating America's birthday and founding. And we had a special guest in the States. We had Marquis de Lafayette. And that name is probably familiar to you Hamilton fans out there because he played a pretty big part in that play, but he played an even bigger part in helping us found our country and the ideals that we have. So he was on tour in the States, and he decided, I don't want to take any of those fancy trains. I want to go by boat and on foot. And while he was exploring the United States, people would give him all sorts of gifts. And one of those gifts just happened to be an American alligator. Imagine getting that as a gift, right? And on his way to the White House, he decided, what better gift to give the President of the United States than an American alligator? And so Marquis de Lafayette gave the alligator to John Quincy Adams, and it lived in the East Wing in a bathtub for about a couple months before it was given to a new home. Now, back then, conservation efforts weren't as awesome as they are now, and so you wouldn't want to store your baby alligator in a bathtub now. But John Quincy Adams liked to play a trick on his guests where he would send them into that bathroom in the East Wing, and they would be very startled to see a baby alligator splashing around in the water. So while they didn't live in the White House specifically, we have another alligator story with our president. Herbert Hoover was our 31st president, my bad, and he owned 2 alligators before he moved into the White House. So they lived with him in Washington, D.C. They were gifted to his son, and they had a little pond in their Washington, D.C. House, and the alligators lived out there, but they kept getting free, and you can't quite have roaming alligators in a city like Washington, D.C. And so what he did was eventually gift them to the Smithsonian Zoo, where they would be well taken care of and viewable to the public. And he would become president only a few years later. Now, I've talked a lot about alligators with you guys today, and I have a very, very special guest to show you guys. So I'll go get him right now. All right. This right here is my friend Garfunkel. If you can see him, he is an American alligator who is a few years old. So American alligators can be found in the southeastern United States. They have a small pocket of them in Mexico as well. They're semi-aquatic creatures that have special adaptations that make them able to live in water or on land. So these guys have webbed feet right here, if you can kind of see that. But another really cool adaptation they have is their eyes and their nostrils are on the very tops of their snouts. And that helps them be at the very top of the water, just have those eyes and just have those nose peering out of the water. and they keep the rest of their body in the water. That helps them look like a log. So when a bird comes by and tries to land on that log floating in the water, these guys snap them on up in their powerful, powerful jaws. Speaking of, they have the third largest bite force in the animal kingdom. After a couple crocodiles, it's these guys here. So they love to eat just about anything. They're apex predators at the top of their food chain. So they'll eat birds, mammals, fish, really anything they can get inside their jaws here. Garfunkel here, not quite big enough to eat much of anything. He is a few years old. In the first 8 years of their life, they gain about a foot. So he's about 3 or 4 years old. Juvenile baby American alligators have these special stripes on their scales here in a brown coloration. And what that does is help disguise them so they look just like sun rays coming through the water. That way they don't get picked on by any birds of prey or any large fish or even other alligators. So they can grow up to 1,000 pounds, and males can get up to 12 feet long, which is almost 2 of me stacked on top of each other. They can be found in swamps, rivers, and streams here in the southeastern United States. And what's really cool about them is they're very vocal. They actually bellow is a noise that they make. And they bellow in a B flat. So think of like a big tuba making a noise. And that's what these guys kind of sound like. Let's see. Alligators also have an amazing conservation story, just like the animals I mentioned earlier. They actually were protected by the Endangered Species Act of 1973, which was signed into law by President Nixon. Their population had been threatened due to habitat loss, and thanks to the Endangered Species Act and legislation like it, they have now made a considerable comeback and are now of least concern. All right, well, thank you so much for hearing about my friend Garfunkel here and some of our awesome presidents and the things they've done to help our environment. I'll kick it back over to you, Matt, and have a great day.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you all for tuning in with us today. We actually have some other lesser-known presidents that you might not know of. If you want to go to the PowerPoint here, we'll kind of go over some of those lesser-known presidents that you might not know of, but still had a big hand in conservation in the United States. Alrighty, looks like we're going to switch over to the PowerPoints. So these are some of the hidden presidents in conservation. You may have heard the presidents themselves, but you may not be known what they actually have done as far as conservation. So the first one would be Woodrow Wilson. So many of you might not think of Woodrow Wilson as being a conservation president, but in 1916, he enacted the Organic Act. So the Organic Act actually created the National Park System, National Park Service as a whole. So before that, there were national parks, but they were all kind of scattered around throughout the different departments. So many of you might think of Teddy Roosevelt as creating the National Park Service, but he didn't actually create the National Park Service as a whole. It wasn't created until later, until 1916, when the Organic Act was enacted with Woodrow Wilson. Also during Wilson's role as president, he created Rocky Mountain National Park, as well as Dinosaur National Park. The next president we'll go to is Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR, as many people know him as. And so many people think of, when they hear of a Roosevelt, is Teddy Roosevelt. And yes, Teddy Roosevelt was a very big proponent to conservation, but FDR was as well. So they were actually fifth cousins. And so FDR had a very hard time as president to be a president. And he was president during the Great Depression. He was also president during much of World War II. So he had a pretty hard job as president. But as far as conservation goes, he did some pretty cool things for this country in conservation. So he created the Civilian Conservation Corps, or it's known as the CCC. And the CCC was a program designed during the Great Depression to help with infrastructure, to help with erosion control, and it gave millions of people jobs. And so that was a great program that Franklin Delano Roosevelt enacted to help people in that troubling time. He also enacted the Tennessee Valley Authority, which was the Tennessee River Valley in Tennessee. And so he enacted that authority to help promote jobs as well, very similar to the CCC, but also to create power in that area and to also help them through that power to develop and grow the communities, the lower income communities in those areas. And he also developed 11 national parks throughout his tenure as president. And finally, we'll go to our last president for today, Barack Obama. And so as Justin touched on, Barack Obama, he created he preserved many acreage of land. And so he preserved over 265 million acres of land, which equals more than any other president in history. He also created 22 national monuments. And again, like I said, 265 million acres of land. And so he expanded the Pacific Remote Island Marine National Monument to encompass just over 495 million acres of water and reefs. And then one of the national monuments that he expanded was the Sand and Snow National Monument, which is approximately 17,000 Native American petroglyphs or writings on it. So that's a pretty cool thing to preserve and part of our history. So again, thank you for joining us today and hearing about some of the presidents and some of their quirky animals that they had, as well as some of the lesser known presidents that have actually had their hand in conservation. And so I want to leave you with this quote from George H.W. Bush to kind of ponder on and think about as we can all learn from this. This quote goes, "It is with a rod and reel in my hand that I tend to count my blessings." And so that's something we can all do a little bit more of. And I know personally, when I have a rod and reel in my hand, I'm really enjoying myself and enjoying the environment around me. So again, thank you for joining us, and join us next week as we partner with Mount Rushmore. We hope to see you then. Thank you.